Hi everyone, I'm Truffles, and today I'm here with JNails, who has made it all the way to the top 8 of the Dominion Online 2020 Championship. So congratulations!
Thanks.
This is actually my second time this year interviewing JNails, third time overall because he's made it to the top 8 last year. Our first run, unfortunately, we lost the audio of the interview, but fortunately, alibby1152 was live transcribing, so we were able to recover a good portion of the text interview, which will be linked below. And we decided to do another audio interview with some bonus questions. So first of all, can you reintroduce yourself?
Yeah, so I gave a general introduction, I guess, in last year's interview. As far as what's changed since then, not a whole lot, except for the one big obvious thing is the COVID pandemic has hit, which the U.S. has dropped the ball in a little bit, to say the least. For me, that's honestly not been such a hindrance. If anything, it might have been more of a boon because, like a lot of stuff I was doing last year, for example, traveling every weekend to adjudicate debate tournaments all around the country, those have now moved online, and so I get to do the same thing, but from the comfort of my own home, which logistically is a whole lot easier, and also for my sleep schedule is a lot better. So, for me at least, there's been like a silver lining to the whole thing. And I'll be interested to see how many of those sort of changes, like work from home type policies that a lot of places have had, will stick going forward once this crisis abates.
Yeah, for me, I work from home as well, and I get to wear my pajamas to work, which is always really nice because they're a lot more comfortable. Yeah, so I asked you some questions earlier, which is in text form, but some new questions, which is, do you have a favorite Dominion player, and if so, who is it?
Yes, I think I've already forgotten how I answered before, but I think I alluded to this in my previous interview that was lost to the sands of time. But the player that I learned the most from, so I guess I can say my favorite player when I was learning how to play Dominion would be Dan. I remember I was watching his videos. He just built like the most absurd engines, and I was like, oh, this is possible. There's more out there than just playing the big money decks. And so that was kind of my catalyst for getting better at Dominion was Dan Brooks's YouTube channel. So I'll pick him.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. For me, I didn't know that there were Dominion videos online, and when I first got into Dominion, I just friended all of the top people on the leaderboard, and I just followed them around and spectated their games. And I would get super excited whenever I get matched with them because I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm playing with I would be fangirling, getting to play someone who's really good. Yeah, and that was always a lot of fun.
I got to have my fangirl moment in losers bracket finals of the tournament Big Money this year when I got to face Dan.
Yeah, I think I had that moment when I got to play Mix Enoch in Interlands Mix. I think I was placed in the same group as him, and I was super excited and also very nervous. On to another question, which is, do you have an all-time favorite board that you've played, or have a board that you've recently enjoyed playing?
Yeah, so I remember giving a similar answer last year. There was some classic one about rebuild versus a Knights engine that that still exists in the old interview. Since then, I remember earlier this year I had a real strong kingdom that I rolled that it had livery and courtier and triumph.
Oh wow.
And I don't think my opponent noticed all of that and started taking provinces one or two at a time. And with courtier, you gain a gold, and you gain 10 horses off the liveries, and then you play the horses and you gain them again, and you get triumph up to a few hundred points. I think I ended up with almost 800 points at the end of that game. Turns out the opponent was RTT's cousin.
Oh my gosh!
Which I did not know at the time. He messaged me after the fact, being don't bully my cousin. But yeah, I think that's the most points I've ever scored in a game of Dominion that wasn't a cooked board or something like that. Because that was just a random wild one. And then very recently, I just had a kingdom where my deck was only necromancers and a few treasures. There was just so many action cards in the trash that you could just get by with a stack of 10 necromancers, and I really enjoyed that one. Necromancer is one of my favorite cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember you mentioning that in our long lost interview. But yeah, it's definitely also one of my favorite cards as well. I think it's particularly fun seeing Necromancer with Knights as well because like it's like
Yeah,
Knights have like two lives, and I think the deck states just get really funny.
yeah. Honestly, I dislike knights in general, and I think most people who dislike knights really hate them in kingdoms with like lurker or rogue or necromancer. Those actually, I think, make them more interesting and tolerable to me because at least there's like a consistent degeneracy to the kingdom, and you can kind of appreciate it more. Like
For
one
sure.
person getting the key knight isn't like the win because then it's in the trash for both people to share.
Yeah, for sure. On to more questions about favorites, which is what is your favorite expansion and why?
Hmm. I really like Menagerie. Love the exile mount. Love the interesting interactions that it creates. I also really like Renaissance. Projects are probably my favorite part of Dominion,
Oh yeah.
if not the new events, which Menagerie has. Nocturne is more hit or miss. It's got some cards that I think are among the best cards in the game. Like I mentioned, Necromancer. I also like Exorcist and Shepherd. But
I
it's also
think
got like boons and stuff that I dislike.
I think you've forgotten Puka off that list.
Oh, quite definitely, I've forgotten Puka. Yeah, that's in the hit or miss category for me. I'm not as much a fan of the Curse Gold.
No.
Um, Honestly, though, everything before Nocturne is just kind of like one big expansion in my mind for the most part. Like, I'm not sure I could clearly identify every card and which kingdom or which expansion it comes from because I started right before Nocturne, and it's like those are the ones that like felt like expansions to me. It's like, oh, a new thing that came out. Everything before that is just like a big blob of cards. But my impression is that the cards have gotten better over time. Like I've looked at the first edition cards that existed. Never played with them before, but they don't look very good. It feels like we've seen pretty consistent improvement in card quality.
Yeah, I feel
Which is
like
a good trend to have.
it almost feels like a different game in a way, but in a very good way. Like I also very much enjoy events and like projects and stuff. I really like Whelp, and like there was like a 4UCK, which I will not pronounce in a live interview, but I like playing with as many events and projects as I can. And I think Swordfish Trombone is one of those players who's also really famous for asking his opponents in League to play like four events or for card shaped objects. I think they
Well, now I'm
do.
disappointed I've never been in the same league category as him. I would totally take him up on that.
Yeah, you should just try to aim to be in his division. If he promotes, gotta follow him or demote.
Yeah, I guess we couldn't both promote at the same time, but we could both demote.
Yeah. And my last question, oh, well, not my last question for you, but my last interesting question for you, sort of, is if you had to design an expansion, what would be the theme and why? And what kind of mechanics would you invent, if any?
Yeah, I think you already foreshadowed one of my key answers. Is I really like events and projects and ways to a lesser extent landmarks. Some landmarks are really interesting as well, and so I would be very happy to have an expansion that had more of a emphasis on that, or any expansion that has those. I think tends to be a good one. Like I really enjoyed the Whelp tournament that had 4 landscapes in every kingdom as well. So something like that. I also really liked the friendly mix tournament. The tournament that just had no attack cards in any kingdom. That was really enjoyable. Almost every card I dislike is an attack card or a pseudo attack card like IGG or Possession. And so I imagine my theoretical expansion would not have a whole lot of strong attacks.
I see. I feel like if you were to design an expansion, you should definitely do like a construction theme expansion, like centered around nails and hammers. I think that would go,
I could see that.
yeah, yeah. I think that would be interesting. And my last question for you is: if you had a Dominion catchphrase, what would it be and why?
That's easy. Don't buy gold. I've been, commentating, spectating a lot of lower level games, and I just found this was the advice that I most consistently gave. I don't even think it was like intentionally meant to be like a thing that was associated with me at first. It just apparently I said it enough that it stuck. But I feel like just the single most common mistake I saw when watching those sorts of games is they would just buy golds in context where they really shouldn't, and it's very frequently a very big mistake. Just because a it usually means that they're buying the gold, like you're buying treasure early when you'd rather be buying draw cards or trashers or something that gets your deck under control, and adding new stop cards gets your deck less under control. And then B, I think it is very symptomatic of a general problem a lot of newer players have of like, oh, I've hit 6, I need to buy the most expensive thing available. Hey, there's this shiny gold card that costs 6. It must be the best card I can buy. When in reality, the prices kind of loosely correlate to which cards are strongest, but it's far from a hard and fast rule. And most often there's like a 4 or 5 cost action card that's better than the gold.
Mhm.
And so like there's a time to buy gold, obviously. Usually it's after your deck's under control. But if I had to give one piece of advice for newer players, it would just be resist that temptation to buy gold. If you hit 6, it doesn't mean you click on the gold. It probably means you click on like another draw card like a Smithy or something like that.
Yeah.
I remember looking at my stats. I buy gold like in less than 1/5 of all games, which suggests that it's not super important. And even those can often 1 or 2. This doesn't apply, by the way, as much to like gold gainers like Market Square or Courtier. Those can be better often. Like one action card can get you lots of gold. So that can be worth it, even where buying an individual gold is not.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think I definitely made that mistake when I was new to the game, especially when you're coming from just learning base set. I think gold tends to be a lot stronger of a card in base set. But when you start adding in expansions and projects, Triumph, and all of these alt VP, you really do want to get like some sort of good engine and deck control.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me interview you again, and thanks for being so accommodating throughout the process. I think you're facing Freaky next, which we actually didn't know during our last interview. So good luck and have fun.
Thanks. I'll do my best.
Bye.